Hello and good evening. You're watching AWANI Tonight with me, Hafiz Marzukhi. Net disposable income or NDI will now be used as the basis to identify target groups for assistance in the government's efforts to eliminate poverty. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim says the government's plan to shift to the NDI measurement will reduce errors in identifying beneficiaries and is more equitable.
This was among the 5 strategies to end poverty outlined by the Prime Minister during the National Symposium to End Poverty on Monday.
Poverty is not just about the lack of money. It is about not having the capability to realize one's full potential as human being. Sebab itu kalau program yang dikemukakan kita masuk IPR, itu bukan soal bantuan dana, itu memberikan ruang mereka bekerja, membebaskan dan kemudian tidak lagi bergantung. Ini baru bagi kita petanda kejayaan.
Anwar, who is also the Finance Minister, added that reliance on government funding could lead to fiscal pressure on the government. Meanwhile, he said reforming funds will be the second strategy in eliminating poverty. And the third effort is related to data integration, including cross-checking with agencies that distribute aid to ensure aid reaches people who deserve them. While the fourth strategy focuses on changing attitudes and mindsets, while the fifth emphasizes strengthening efforts to eradicate poverty.
There is a need to improve laws involving national security to counter violent extremism in the country, says Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim. Says Malaysia will not compromise on this matter, allowing the nation to become a platform for extremist groups.
Saya rasa ada keperluan, kalau ada keperluan tentang Akta Keselamatan Negara yang menjurus khusus kepada usaha menjamin keselamatan dalam negeri daripada unsur-unsur dan pengaruh dari luar. Ini saya serah kepada kebijaksanaan PDRM dan Angkatan Tentera serta pada kuasa-kuasaan lain, sekiranya ada elemen-elemen yang harus dimasukkan yang belum cukup kuat dalam undang-undang negara.
A baby born in 2024 is expected to live on average up to 75.2 years, according to the Department of Statistics Malaysia. Chief Statistician Datuk Seri Dr. Muhammad Uzair Mahidin says the average life expectancy for a baby girl is 77.8 years, which is 4.8 years longer than that of a baby boy, whose life expectancy is 73 years.
He said that Selangor had the highest life expectancy at birth for both males and females from 2022 to 2024, while Terengganu recorded the lowest during this period. There are 3 states with life expectancies exceeding the national average in 2024, namely Selangor, the Federal Territory of Labuan and Kuala Lumpur. Muhammad Uzair said the highest life expectancy at birth for males and females by administrative districts for 2024 was recorded in Petaling, Selangor at 80.2 years, while Samarahan, Sarawak recorded the highest life expectancy in 2023, 79.6 years, and 2022, 79.5 years. Kuala Penyu, Sabah recorded the lowest life expectancy at birth for males and females from 2022 to 2024.
Authorities have opened 80 investigation papers against GISB Holding Sdn Berhad, or GISB, says Home Minister Datuk Seri Saifuddin Nasution Ismail. He adds that the findings from the investigations will be submitted to the Attorney General's chambers once finalized for further deliberation.
The investigations involve several acts, namely the Child Act 2001, Sexual Offences Against Children Act 2017, Anti-Trafficking in Persons and Anti-Smuggling of Migrants Act 2007, and the Penal Code. Saifuddin added that 359 arrests have been made and 592 GISB children have been successfully rescued from care homes linked to the company so far. Last week, the police confirmed that the investigation into GISB was currently focused on tracing the flow of money, including assets within the country linked to the company. On September 11th, police raided GISB-linked care homes in several states and rescued children and adolescents believed to be physically and sexually abused.
Heart failure accounts for over 18% of all medically certified deaths in 2022, totaling more than 95,000 individuals. Despite its prevalence, it remains misunderstood and often grouped with other cardiac issues. To mark World Heart Day this month, we speak to Dr. Raja Ezman Faris Raja Sharif, who is a consultant cardiologist from UiTM, about the symptoms to look out for.
Heart attack normally describes a condition where a patient develops a blockage in one of the arteries or one of the blood vessels in the heart, and then that causes what we call heart attack or myocardial infarction when it comes to when you talk about it in jargon language. Heart failure, on the other hand, is when the heart pump of the heart doesn't work effectively. So it's either the pump itself, it doesn't sort of forcefully pump and sort of delivers blood across the body, or if the pump itself is struggling to pump because of external forces, so there's a lot of pressure build-up, etc. And normally then patients develop symptoms that are suggestive of heart failure, such as shortness of breath, or difficulty walking distances because of that, because they're unable to catch their breath, or walking upstairs because it takes a lot more effort, or even problems with sleeping because they're lying sort of horizontally. So gravity and all that, they start developing water in their lungs and they feel breathless, or they can develop water in their peripheries or their legs because of gravity as well, and they get leg swelling. So that is more pathognomonic or more suggestive of heart failure.
Dr. Ezman explained that since heart failure occurs more gradually, many fail to notice the early signs.
With heart failure, most of the time, you're quite lucky because it can be insidious. So it takes a while, it's a bit more gradual when it develops. But I think what happens is patients aren't very forthcoming with their symptoms when it comes to heart failure. So they actually seek medical attention far later. And I think the truth is, when it comes to diagnosing heart failure and getting the diagnosis right, most of the time it happens in a hospital setting. So patients are already breathless, requiring oxygen, etc. When actually it could be detected far earlier, much more quicker in the community setting outside of the hospital.
With any heart diseases, Dr. Ezman emphasized that prevention is always better than cure.
Patients at risk are often those who have this conglomerate of comorbidities, and just trying to get them in check and not getting them in the first place is key, really. So checking, making sure you're not at risk of diabetes, getting your yearly checks, blood tests, etc., urine tests to make sure you're not developing the disease, healthy lifestyle, diet, exercise, etc., as well as a given, and sort of keeping your weight in check. Sometimes, aging is difficult. I think aging is something that you can't control per se, but even at an elderly age, there are things that you can do to still maintain good heart health. We've shown again, time and time, exercise is an investment not for now, exercise is an investment for later. And we have shown that exercising at a younger age does prevent the development of heart failure with preserved ejection in the future. So again, simple advice that probably everyone has heard day in and day out, but sort of really taking them into account and actually doing them.
We'll go for a short break. Stay with us.
The Sanderson Farms Championship returns, bringing you the thrill of top-tier golf right here in Mississippi. Watch as top pros and rising stars battle it out as the FedEx Cup fall continues. Who will claim the coveted Rooster Trophy?
Penyasaran subsidi diesel di Semenanjung tidak akan memberi kesan kepada harga barangan keperluan di Sabah, Sarawak dan Labuan.
660 individu berusia bawah 21 tahun di Sarawak telah diberikan kewarganegaraan.
Sarawak kini menjalinkan kerjasama dengan Bank Dunia dalam menjayakan perdagangan karbonnya.
Welcome back. 3 people were killed in the strikes that hit an apartment building in Kola, Beirut, the first attack on the Lebanese capital beyond the southern suburbs. The military also mounted further airstrikes in Lebanon, killing 105 people in the last 24 hours. Meanwhile, 4 people in Yemen were killed, while 29 wounded by Israeli airstrikes in Yemen's port of Hodeidah on Sunday. According to Israel, this was a response to Houthi missile attacks on Israel in recent days. Israel's increasing frequency of attacks against the Hezbollah in Lebanon and the Houthis in Yemen has prompted fears that Middle East fighting could spin out of control and draw in Iran and the United States, Israel's main ally. Israel has also continued its attacks across the Gaza Strip, killing at least 28 people in the last day. In Gaza, nearly 41,600 people have been killed in almost a year since the war broke out. In South Korea, a former district police chief has been sentenced to 3 years in prison for his role in the Itaewon crowd crush that killed over 150 people during Halloween weekend in 2022. Former Yongsan District Police Chief Lee Im-jae was found guilty of failing to prevent the disaster, making him the first officer convicted for their direct involvement in the tragedy.
Tens of thousands had gathered in Itaewon for the first post-pandemic Halloween celebrations when overcrowding in a narrow alley led to the deadly crush. The court ruled the risk was foreseeable. Another officer in charge of Yongsan's emergency center received a 2-year sentence, and earlier this year, 2 senior police officers were jailed for destroying reports that flagged safety concerns before the incident. The former head of the Seoul Metropolitan Police Agency is also on trial for professional negligence, with prosecutors seeking a 5-year sentence. Despite district-level prosecutions, no high-ranking government officials have been held accountable, prompting criticism from victims' families.
Japan's incoming Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba is set to call a snap general election on October 27th, according to the local media reports. The 67-year-old won the leadership of the ruling Liberal Democratic Party, or LDP, on Friday and is expected to be sworn in as Prime Minister on Tuesday.
NHK reports that Ishiba is finalizing plans to dissolve Parliament on October 9th, in preparation for the elections later in the month. On Friday, Ishiba expressed his desire to call the election to strengthen his mandate as soon as possible. The former defense minister has replaced Fumio Kishida as leader of the LDP, a party that has governed Japan almost uninterrupted for decades. Kishida resigned following a damaging party slush fund scandal, which contributed to his unpopularity amid rising prices that have angered voters.
Austria's far-right Freedom Party has finished first in the country's general election, highlighting the growing support for hard-right parties across Europe. However, this result falls short of a parliamentary majority.
Kiko will need a coalition partner to command a majority, but rival parties have expressed reluctance to work with him. Chancellor Karl Nehammer of the People's Party reiterated that his party will not form a government with Kiko. As the former Interior Minister, Kiko aims to become Austria's new Chancellor, marking the first victory for a far-right party in a national election since World War II. This outcome is part of a broader trend of far-right electoral successes in Europe, fueled by concerns over immigration. The Freedom Party is aligned with a right-wing group in the European Parliament led by France's National Rally. Voter turnout was notably high at 78%, with Austria's 6.3 million voters participating in an election that focused on migration, asylum issues, the struggling economy, and the ongoing war in Ukraine.
That wraps up this edition of AWANI Tonight. Thanks for watching. I'm Hafiz Marzukhi, and good night.